There are a bunch more dice in the lid, so don't worry, this is not all of them. So I have a lot of dice. Hang on a minute. Potions. This beautiful silicone one. And 2 trays made out of cardboard. I think that's all the dice. So where we used to live, this was such the perfect container. It needed to slide under a piece of furniture with quite a tall clearance, because this is... It's probably about 20 centimetres tall at its highest point. And that's part of the problem, because the top is so curved like this. You can't put anything on top of it. So when its job was to slide underneath another piece of furniture, that was fine. But we don't have that furniture anymore. And now it needs to go on a shelf. Because it covers such a wide surface area, it's like half the shelf. And you can't really put anything on top of it because it doesn't stack nicely because of this curve. So I would like a new storage solution for the dice. I have a plan. I bought this from Home Bargains. It cost me a tenner. It's a makeup storage, which is what this one actually was originally. But I much prefer the dimensions. It's taller, it's got less of a footprint. The top seems like it's flatter, although obviously that depends on what you're going to put into it. And if we open it up, so it's got zip pockets in the top, and then it does this. So we've got 4 compartments here, and then this is a massive section in the middle. So the dice in the old bag are separated into colour. So what I was thinking is if I make 6 or 8 little fabric bags out of just like fat quarters, they would fit really nicely in here. And then this top bit could be for dice bags, special dice, other bits and bobs. So step 1 is to measure the inside of this and see what dimensions we're working with. So 26 centimetres. I am going to live in centimetres, I'm afraid. I can't do the whole 1/8 of an inch thing, so we're all just going to have to cope with that if you're used to any other dimensions. Google exists if you want to swap them out. 15.5 tall. Why would it be a whole number? If we want 8, it would have been 9 by 6.5. I think that's smaller than this post-it. That's slightly longer than this post-it. I think I could live with that. It is a shame they're not going to be square, because rectangles are slightly harder to do the maths on. If I did do squares, how much would I have left over? If I did 6 bags, they would be loosely square, and the give on them interacting with each other, I could make them basically square, and then it would just sort of fill the space. So, do I want 6 that are square, or do I want 8 that are rectangular? Or, more insanely, you could do 12, so 3 rows of 4. I mean, they're 15.5 centimetres tall, these bags, so it's not like they're tiny, and it would give me more separation. I need to look inside this guy and see how I feel about transferring that. Okay, I've got 7 compartments, and I felt that that was slightly restrictive, so I need to do at least 8. Could we do 12? I mean, I think I'm going to have to sew a test mini one of if I was doing 12 in the box and see what that feels like and how many dice it fits in it. And then we'll figure out what to do. I've drawn myself out a little pattern, so I'm going to cut that out and maybe we'll pin it together and see if that works. So this is the small side. That's going to come in 6.25, I think. And then this one's going to come in 12.5. Well, that can't possibly be true, can it? But why? Oh, hang on. I've forgotten the side. Okay. Okay, so that's the real size of the square. This is so messy already. Now, 1.5 on either side of that is seam allowance. Is it true? Yeah, I'm doing 1.5 centimeters seam allowance because I want to roll it over so that it's cute. I have just enough sewing knowledge to be dangerous. I think it might help if I also draw the seam allowance on the whole thing because I'm getting myself in a muddle. Please be 13 centimeters in the middle. Why is it less than... What haven't I measured properly? It's a good thing I thought I should practice. So not this one, and not this one. It should now be 26 centimetres between the seam allowances, which there is. I'm not going to risk counting backwards at this stage. I've already done so much wrong math. So that's 13! Why is it 13? No, 13's right. That's 6. Oh, maths. Then what do I do with that? Because this 6.5 now has to extend 6.5 that way. 6.5 plus 3 is 9.5. Yes, good. So what am I going to do here? Because if I cut there and there, I think yes. I'm going to cut this out and then figure out if that was right. Box. I'm going to pin it together and we'll see if the theory works. Broadly, it works. I had miscalculated the seam allowance on the bottom, so I did have to cut a couple of extra bits off. I did have an idea of how I was going to hem it sort of nicely so that there weren't any raw edges. I'm not sure if that idea is going to survive. If I sewed that line, right, and then folded that but like inside itself and then sewed it down again, that's basically what a hem is, right? So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to unpin this because I want to write a bunch of measurements on it and then take a picture so that essentially I have the pattern and then I'll write it up properly later. And then pin it back together and sew it, because if it doesn't work when I sew it, that's fine. I'll work out why that is. But if it does work when I sew it, I don't want to be like, great, now how do I replicate that? Yeah, I'm going to do that. Look, I made a bag! It's not perfect by any means, but I made a thing. The thrill of making something even really simple that I haven't made before is so... cannot top this. If we turn it inside out, obviously it's still got the marker lines on it, but that's fine. I quite like this actually with the measurement notes on it. So couple things. One, I shouldn't have chopped the corners off because they're all fraying and I can't fold them in properly. And I sort of forgot that paper is different to fabric. So this would have worked on a paper box, but on a fabric box, not so much. I also forgot, so I backstitched the whole thing because I wanted it to be nice and secure, but I've sort of forgot that backstitch has a back, as in you can tell which side you've stitched and which side you haven't. So I did that on the wrong way round on the top hem. So what will be on the outside of the bag is the inside of the stitch, which is slightly annoying. But I think I'm going to do the others on the machine anyway, so that's not going to be a problem. But other than that, very successful test. The next thing I'm going to do is fill this up with dice to see how many it carries. If I feel happy with that, we will be making 12 more sewing on the machine. So I will then have to do the pattern in paper. So let's fill this up with dice and see what we can do. So these are all of my blue dice. I'm going to sort these into sets, not necessarily the right sets, but into the 7 different kinds of dice, just to get a sense of how many sets fit in the bag. So I'm going to make some quote-unquote sets, and then we'll get filling. 8, 9, 10. Well, it's like basically halfway. That's much better than I thought. I might make some other sets up and see how far we can get then. This is 22 sets of dice, which is more than I thought it was going to fit. Now, it's not all of my blue dice, but it's not far off. And blue is one of my biggest colours, and I think I could come up with some reasons why some of these should not be in here. For example, if they're quote-unquote special dice, I could put them somewhere else. So the concept has been proved. There has been success. I just need to make 12 of these now. So I'm going to draw out the pattern and then get to cutting, I guess. So the next thing to do is to pin them out. I'm going to do this one first because I'll have to cut into here to do this seam allowance, and I'm worried about that. Because if you remember on this one, the corners are a little bit frayed because I cut too close to them and didn't leave enough of a gap. seams wise, so there's not enough material hidden in there. So when I cut into here, what I might do, maybe I still need to cut into there like that, but just not go as far in, basically. So I just need to do some good measuring on that part. I think that's right. It's possible actually that I might not need to cut it. I maybe could just pinch it. If I did, like, that's going to be sewn together, right? So if you just pinch it and sew it. So let's do marking in the seam allowances. Okay, I know I said I was going to factory line these, but I've just pinned this one, and in order to make it work, it really wasn't happy around the going around the corner where, let me show you one that I haven't pinned. Hold on. A box has 4 sides, yes? Side 1, side 2, this is wider because of the seam allowance, remember? Side 3, side 4. Now, because of the way this joins onto here, that goes round a sharp corner, right? And then this doesn't. This is very unhappy going round that corner. So what I ended up doing was I cut here. Now, that's sort of what I said I wasn't going to do in terms of like cutting in the seam allowance. So in order to make sure that that wasn't a mistake that will jeopardize the sort of stability of the construction, what I'm going to do is sew this one as almost a sort of second test, really. And actually, this is the fabric I have the most of, so if it goes wrong and I have to redo it, I can do that, it's fine. So I've sewn this up. I did it by hand in the end because I still wasn't sure about the corners at the bottom, and sewing on the machine is great and fine, but I don't actually have that many thread reels that the machine likes, so I'm limited in terms of colours. I didn't want to buy anything for this project, and that would be the only thing I would have to buy, so I'm going to I'd rather not. Sewing them on the machine is nice and fast, but that means that I don't have time to think while I'm doing it, so when I get the machine out, it's like sewing time. It's not puzzle time, because I will just sew what's in front of me and what I've marked out, which isn't necessarily always helpful for something like this, where there are things about this I would like to change, so I haven't nailed it yet. So in doing this one, I decided to go by hand again, just to sort of try and nail it down, and I'm actually really happy that I did. I'm really pleased with it in general. So I did a couple of things differently. This one is the first one I tried. You can see all the markings. The corners are raw because I think I cut them too close to the sewing, because I cut them before I started folding and pinning anything. So what I did on this one, this is so nice in comparison. This is the complicated corner because the long seam joins the bottom seam. But I like what I've done with it, which is essentially to kind of miter but quite high up and then fold it inside. So they're all tucked in there. And then this one is the one I had to cut in because of this corner, but I think I might try and not cut in for the next one and just fold it, and I think that will still take, because that's my messiest corner. There's a little bit still that I didn't quite manage to get in the thread. And then for this, these were just sort of raw and sad on this one. And these, I tucked them inwards and then pinched the fabric up. The other thing I did differently on this one, I kind of let this loose, which is fine. But on this one, I actually sewed it down to, mostly, sewed it down to the hem, because I think it actually will make for a cleaner line, and I remember to sew it the right way around. So the nice stitching is on what will be the outside. That looks quite nice, I think. So because I don't have thread that the machine likes, I'm kind of committed to hand sewing all of them, which will take some time. So this has stopped being a, oh, I can just whip something up project, and started being a, I'm going to hand stitch 12 bags. This one took me 3 hours to sew because I didn't really know what I was doing. I spent quite a lot of time on the bottom seams. So I'm going to see, hopefully it won't take that long, but my hand hurts. So I certainly can't just sit here for many reasons, but also just physically, I can't just sit here and just sew. So I'm going to have to tidy my space enough so that I can work on other projects and work. I need to work out what the core equipment of this is and put it in some sort of tray or bag so that it's really easy to just come back to in between other things. And then I will report back if anything interesting happens or when I finish them. Hey y'all, so I have spent the last few days sewing these beautiful babies. There are a couple more, but they're being experiments in the box right now. So actually, of the 12 that I planned, we only have 2 left. I'm anticipating there being maybe not enough room in the box for all of them because I hadn't really appreciated that the fabric would bulge when you put stuff in it. So maybe these should be even skinnier, but then I think they just wouldn't be useful at that range. So we might not fit all 12 in the box, but we're going to sew all 12 because they're cute and I've committed to the rainbow thing. And then we get to see how well the whole thing works. Wish me luck. Ta-da! So this took a while because I hand sewed them. I think if you did it on the machine, it would take minutes once you'd cut one out to put it together, but part of the process was working out how the pattern would work best, and I can't think about problem solving while I am running the sewing machine. While I'm running the sewing machine, that's all I'm doing. Hand sewing, I can start thinking about problem solving, so that's the way this had to go. Also, the thread thing that I think I mentioned earlier was definitely a factor in when I got to about like 8 and I was like, this is taking so long. I should just do them on the machine. And then I was like, well, A, the stitches will look different and that will annoy me, and B, the thread colours. I didn't buy a single thing for this project. All of these were fat quarters and fabric scraps that I had already. The pattern, I mean, it's slightly deeper than an A4 sheet. This is not a whole A4 sheet, this bit. I've cut this down. It's just slightly longer than A4 is not huge. So I think if I could work out how to like put drawstrings in the top, they would make great gifts. But for the moment, their primary purpose is does all of this, which now that I'm looking at it, it seems like they're quite big. Does it fit in the box I wanted to put my dice in? Let's find out. So here is the box once again. Now the compartment that we're interested in is this nice and deep section in the middle. So let's see how many bags will fit in it. The idea was 3 by 4. I think we might be in trouble here. So the thing about that is 9 fills it. I guess step 1 is figuring out where there are colour duplicates so that I could try to fit. So for example, if I took out this red and black one, I must maintain the rainbow. There's 2 greens, so let's keep the shiny green. How do rainbows work? Purple goes at the end of blue. I'm going to use this kind of more mustardy one, I think, because I think the yellow, I don't have a load of yellow dice, I don't think. I think 9 might be as good as it's going to get. It's a shame not to use all of the bags, particularly this sunny yellow one I really liked. I will use them probably for something. And I did have 7 compartments in the other tray, so to have 9, like these are all smaller containers than I had in the other bag, but there's more of them, so we might end up fine. I think the only way to find out is to fill it. So let's fill the box and hope that this works how I wanted it to. they fit about as well as I thought they were going to, if I'm honest. I knew it would at the very least be tight because the previous box was so massive and this box just wasn't the same dimensions wise. So actually, it kind of went better than I thought. The multicolored dice are not in it at all. At the moment, they're filling one of the trays inside, but I would ideally like all of those dice to fit in one place away, sort of out of the collection, if you like. And then that tray I could use for other special dice that I want to, like I've taken the metal dice and the gemstone dice and the sort of novelty shape dice are separated out from the colours into their own separate categories, and it would be cool to have a category that's like special edition D20s or themed dice, particularly that I might want. Like, it would be cool to, I've got a couple of sets of Critical Role dice, it would be cool for them to come out and have sort of be a bit more on display. If I can work out better storage for the multicolored dice and free up that other tray, I might go back through those three categories, because I know there's like a couple of giant dice in the monochrome, which isn't helping. But overall, I'm really pleased with it. I'm really pleased with how it fits on the shelf. It looks much tidier. It's making me want to rearrange the shelves a little bit. So this shelf is minis and this shelf is dice at the moment. But what would be cool would be to kind of not merge the two, but like this higher shelf that's going to be much more visible be sort of display stuff, and then this be kind of the storage area would be kind of cool. I don't know, I'll enjoy it for a bit. I hope that was inspirational or helpful or sympathetic in terms of dice storage, methods of dice storage. I would recommend using those square-bottomed pouches. They're a really nice shape, and like I say, it wouldn't be too hard to put a drawstring in the top. Like where I've folded over the top for the hem, there's already a channel there, so you could fairly straightforwardly, I think, thread something through there, punch a hole. In fact, I might turn those three into dice bags at some point. I think that would be a really nice use of them. I love the way the inside of the dice chest looks. It's proper like treasury in there. The colours and it's so good. I feel very validated for all my hand stitching. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed watching that journey. I hope the tutorial was useful. I hope you also feel inspired to find good storage solutions for, I'm sure there are many, many other people with enormous dice collections. Let me know in the comments if you have a giant collection and how you store them nicely. I would love to have more of them on display. I just really haven't found a solution that I like yet, but it would be very cool to do that. So let me know if you have any ideas. And otherwise, take care, and I will see you on the next project very soon.